to you from the Sherpa Chalet on downtown beautiful Mount Podcastia. This is a special episode of Too Many Podcasts. I'm Jim, the podcast Sherpa, and today I get to interview people from the entertainment industry. So make sure you've got a nice aisle seat, enough popcorn, and a cold drink, because we're heading over to the Sherpa Screening Room. Hey there, all you rebels of the Sherpalution. Welcome to the premiere of the Sherpa Screening Room. Now, I'm sure that some of you who've been followers of Too Many Podcasts from the beginning are probably wondering, wait a minute, what's going on here? Isn't this the podcast about podcasts? Of course it is, and it still will be. But every once in a while, we will be having episodes like this, where I get to talk to people from the entertainment industry about movies, TV, acting, whatever else might fall under that umbrella, and so much more. And I hope that you'll still stick around and enjoy it. Remember, to me, podcasting is all about good stories, and you know that you can always find good stories from someone in the entertainment industry. Trust me, I've got a whole bunch of entertainment interviews under my belt right now, and you will be hearing them in coming months ahead, along with your regular episodes of Too Many Podcasts, where I get to talk to podcasters about their shows. So don't worry, nothing's changed. It's just expanding. So viva la Sherpalution, and I hope that you enjoy it. Now, someone who's got plenty of stories to tell would be my first guest, Barry Papick. Barry was a great guy to talk to this week, and we put his episode up first because he's making an appearance at an autograph fair out in California. So all my rebels who are out there on the West Coast, if you want to go shake his hand and have a word with him, he will be there. And there's more information when we talk to him in the interview. Barry is an actor that you may have recognized in some movies, and he's also been a writer and a director and an acting coach. And I found it great that after he was trained by some of the greatest acting coaches in the United States, he is now training other people as well. And even while he's doing all of that, he has his own podcast, and it's called The Inside Noise. So check it out, and check out his website, barrypapick.com. Now, before we get on to our interview, as usual, today's podcast is being brought to you by Audible, where you can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Sherpa. And there's over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Let's head on down to the interview. Hey, Rebels, welcome to the Sherpa Screening Room. And I am here with Mr. Barry Papick. This guy is
very exciting.
Thank you for being here.
I'm very excited to be here.
He is a very busy man. Not only is he an actor, he also does voiceover work, he does theater work, he's worked in TV, and he's also an acting coach as well. And we're going to cover a lot of that in our talk today. So, Barry, take me from the beginning.
That sounds fantastic. I went to college in Washington, D.C., and I got a degree in English and political science, and I moved back to New York and decided that what I really wanted to do was become an actor. And I was really lucky. I met a gentleman named Lee Strasberg, who was my mentor and the greatest acting coach in the world. And Lee sort of took me under his wing, and I became an actor. I was in a very fervent time in New York City, so I was able to study with Uta Hagen for years, who I really loved, and Stella Adler, but always continuing with Lee Strasberg. And I was just really lucky. I was in the right time, in the right place.
So what was it that you first saw? Was there a special movie or a television program that when you just kind of looked at the screen and said, yep, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, I think it was Marlon Brando. I always enjoyed watching Brando's work, watching Al Pacino in The Godfather, things like that I said, this is the one way that I can communicate and maybe just change the world a little bit. And I know that sounds huge, but really what I wanted to do was make my statement. And I thought by acting, it was the one way I could make my statement.
And you started cutting your teeth in the theater first.
I did. I did a lot of theater back in New York, 40 plays actually, and even directed a bunch of plays in New York. And like I said, I was really lucky that I was studying at the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute. So at the time I was doing some plays there also, and also at the Actors Studio. I did Lower Depths at the Actors Studio, and at the time, Paul Newman was the president, and Al Pacino was the artistic director. So it put me in front of people who were influential, and also people whose work I really respected.
And then did you kind of branch out into TV or to movies from that point? Or what were you doing first?
It's a great question. The first thing I did was a television show called Rescue 911. And it happens I was doing a play at the same time, so it was really crazy. But I got Rescue 911. I went up to Newington, Connecticut, and shot it. I was a hostage, and I took my brothers hostage, my two brothers hostage, and I shot them. Actually, didn't kill them, but shot them. And did this Rescue 911, and it opened other doors for me. Then I got a TV show called Swan's Crossing, and it was me and Sarah Michelle Gellar and Mira Savino and Brittany Daniels, and we did 65 episodes, of which I was in 60 of them. Basically, I cut my teeth on television, and then I started into movies. I did Private Parts with Howard Stern, and then I moved out to Los Angeles and continued working a lot in television. I did all the episodics and a lot in film. I did a movie called Simone with Al Pacino, and Finding Forrester, directed by Gus Van Sant.
It's funny. I'm hearing a recurring theme. As you're telling me all your different parts that you've played, you really, I think, have a lesson right there for a lot of aspiring actors about surrounding yourself with the right people.
I was really lucky in that way, because when I was young, New York was a very fervent, exciting place. And, I was able to surround myself, with Lee Strasberg, and Lee's students were Al Pacino and De Niro and Brando, and Lee was the artistic director at the Actors Studio. So I was really lucky that when I was young, I was able to surround myself with some great actors, which was both exciting for me and it's just like sports. The better people you surround yourself with, the better you'll end up.
Maybe people have asked you this before. When you're going in to be schooled as an actor and you're mastering your craft, and then all of a sudden you're working with the people that you looked up to, what is your mindset when you had a scene with Al Pacino in the movie Simone?
Yeah, actually, all my scenes in Simone were with Al, and it was great, because Al and I came from the same school. We spoke the same language. So when I was working with him, although I knew he was just an incredible talent, it was also, pretty exciting and pretty comfortable. And Al has a way of making people comfortable. And I'll tell you a little story. The first scene we did in Simone, Al forgot his lines the first 3 takes. So by the time we got to the 4th take, there was all the pressure was off me because, all we had to do was the scene. It didn't make a difference if I forgot it. Didn't make a difference if I made a mistake because Al had already done that.
And you said that he was a bit of a softball player too.
He was. He decided that he wanted to play, to form a Simone softball team. So for 2 months, we played every Sunday against the guys from Just Shoot Me. So David Spade and all of those guys. And it was a blast. And Al played second base for us. And we had a lot of fun. And he even got us uniforms. It's one of his favorite things to do. And it was really funny because I had just come off of a film working with Sean Connery. And Sean, I love Sean. He's an incredible guy. But, Sean, you always know you're around a movie star when you're around Sean. But with Al, you're always just around a guy. And Al is just a regular guy. And we always had a lot of fun. I just saw him a couple weeks ago. We were at a memorial for an old theater writer who was just a great guy, John Ford Noonan. And I had done a couple of John's plays way back in the day. And I went to this memorial. There's only about 30 people there, and Al was one of the people that were there. And he got up and he did a poem. He read a poem, and it was really amazing. And he's really a down-to-earth, really good guy.
I wanted to go over some of the appearances that you have made, if I can just kind of run down a little bit of a list. And, maybe if you got some stories, if you want to share.
Love to.
You said Rescue 911. That was William Shatner, right?
William Shatner, although we never met Shatner. The funny thing about doing Rescue 911 is they try to use as many of the real people as they possibly can. So they used the real SWAT team, and these guys kept on throwing these handcuffs on me. My wrists were black and blue. And I kept on telling them, I'm only an actor. I'm not really the guy you're arresting. And, so for like 4 days, these guys were beating the hell out of me.
Welcome to television, right?
Exactly.
And you did other police dramas. You were in NYPD Blue, and you were also in Without a Trace.
Yeah, both of those were fantastic. NYPD Blue was great because Dennis Franz is one of the nicest guys in the world. And I remember I was in makeup with Denny at 7 in the morning. And, he was just, he's the big star. And, he was just the nicest guy. Really nice guy. And the same thing with Without a Trace. I was on the last season, and everybody was pretty much bored of the show at that point, but they were real respectable. And I had this big monologue in the middle of 30 extras, and they were great to me. The director was really great to me, and it was a really good working experience. I enjoyed doing Without a Trace, and we shot on the Warner Brothers lot, so it was just nice and easy. You were also in Private Parts with Howard Stern. Now that was really his big motion picture debut as well. It was, and it was his only motion picture. But I did 4 months on that movie. So basically, it's interesting because he has such a huge following. It's probably what I get recognized for the most. A lot of times I'll be walking down the street and people will ask me, if I was the guy from Private Parts. It was a blast to do, and we had a lot of fun. Betty Thomas directed that. Ivan Reitman produced it, and Ivan hired me for a 2-week part, and then he ended up stretching it out to 4 months, and I just had a lot of fun shooting that. It was great. And you also got to play a lead in the movie Hotel Room. You want to talk about that a little bit? Yeah, Hotel Room is one of those beautiful independent films. And, I've done a lot of studio films, these $40, $50 million films, Private Parts, Finding Forrester. But the nice thing about Hotel Room was it was one of these $500,000 films. And it's been in more festivals than any other film. We were in Rotterdam. We were in Barcelona. And I play a weatherman who is a drag queen. And he gets outed on hard copy. So he comes back to the hotel room where he was born to commit suicide. And it's just this really nice, small film. And it was a lot of fun to shoot. And Seth Gay, who is a huge director now in Spain, was the director of our film. What did you do with all the dresses when you were done with them? Oh, unfortunately, they weren't mine. But, there's not a lot you could do with dresses my size, believe me, and shoes my size. High heels my size were unbelievable. The thing that I found, and obviously I had never been in drag before, but the things that I found were like I hated lipstick on my lips and I hated wearing high heels because I couldn't walk in them. And you also were a lead in Faces on Mars? I was, with the director named Jane Spencer, who I ended up doing 3 other films with, and I love Jane. And Faces on Mars was a blast. My first feature I ever did was a movie called Little Noises with Crispin Glover. It was also directed by Jane Spencer. So, we've had a nice relationship over the years and done a lot of work together over the years. You were an on-set acting coach in the movie Finding Forrester and also some Adam Sandler movies. Is that correct? Yeah, well, not an Adam Sandler movie, but an Adam Sandler television show.
Oh, okay.
Which was a blast. And working with Adam was great. It was called The Dana and Julia Show. I think it was ahead of its time because it was somewhat filthy. And these days it could have been shown on cable, but back then on network it just was, it was a little ahead of its time. But Kevin Nealon was in it, some really great people, and Dana and Julia are just really funny and fantastic.
When you're an on-set acting coach, what exactly is your role there?
I always think of it as secondary directing, because what I do is, whereas the director will direct the shots, I direct the actors. And I work with them on intention, where they're coming from. And, I've been the on-set coach for a movie called Labor Pains, The Express, Finding Forrester, among many others. And, what I do is I basically just work with the actors and say, look at it from this point of view. And it's always, it's always exciting. It's just a way to really make the actors' performance a little bit fuller and a little bit truer.
Were there ever times that you were working maybe on a project and you almost wanted to kind of jump into the movie?
A lot of times. Absolutely. And there were times that I had, I'm in Labor Pains, and I was also the acting coach on Labor Pains. I'm in Finding Forrester, although they cut me out mostly. But you could still hear me in Finding Forrester. And the only movie that I was the acting coach on that I didn't act in was a movie called The Express, which is the Ernie Davis story. And I had the opportunity, but it just never seemed like the right time, so I didn't do it. I being an actor at heart and an actor first, it's always my thought, should I step into this movie? Can I do this part? And most directors that I've worked with have given me that opportunity. And, and it's really great because every director has a different personality. So as you're the acting coach, you're on set and you feel out what you can do and what you can't do. Like, when I'm on set with Gus Van Sant, it's great because he gives me carte blanche on the set, and I can go and talk to the actors, F. Murray Abraham and, Sean Connery, Buster Rhymes. We had an incredible cast, Anna Paquin. We had 3 Academy Award winners. On The Express, I did everything through the director. I'd say, okay, I'd like to make an adjustment here, and the director said, go ahead. And, so it was different, but it was really great.
Now, having worked with a lot of experienced veteran actors and probably a lot of newcomers as well, what would be your advice to maybe someone who wanted to get into the entertainment business, if they wanted to get into films or TV?
Well, I think the first thing is to study. It's just like anything else. When you're a lawyer, you go to years and years of school. When you're a doctor, you go to years and years of school. And I think it's foolish to think that you can be an actor and not really study and do the work. So I think that, nothing comes naturally. Everything is about, taking yourself as an artist and making yourself better. And I think that's what classes are all about.
Yeah, and I think especially in a lot of today's movies and stuff, maybe actually in the era that we grew up in, you really had a lot of actors and actresses that really had that talent. They had that something. They weren't just a pretty face.
I agree. And, what happens is if they don't nurture that talent, they become one-hit wonders. They don't, they don't grow as artists. And you see guys, I always say, you look at Tom Cruise and, there's a reason that Tom Cruise makes more money than anybody else in Hollywood. And it's because he works harder than anybody else in Hollywood. I know his acting coach, she's a good friend of mine. And, he's always on set, 2 months before anybody else. And he's always working harder than anybody else. I've coached some of the biggest people in Hollywood. I worked with Jamie Foxx on Ray. I worked with Dennis Quaid on The Express. Alec Baldwin. So the thing is that everybody wants that third opinion. Everybody wants that third eye. So, the challenge is to know who you're working with and know how to present it to them.
Sure, and I guess you definitely have to build up a lot of trust between the two of you. They've got to have faith in you as you do in them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And once you have that faith, and, I think every actor really, nobody minds the suggestions. So you just have to know how to go in. I mean, when I was working with Sean Connery, it was fantastic because, Sean is just such a smart guy, and he knows exactly what he wants to do. So if you give him a suggestion here and there, he's excited by that. And, it's always great. And, I think most actors are. Most actors are excited by any sort of input.
Probably people assume that egos get in the way, but like you said, you're working together on a project and you're trying to put your best foot forward.
Yeah, I've never worked with an actor where an ego's got in the way. And it's interesting, and maybe it's just my personality, but when I'm on set, I've always, worked with actors and we speak artistically, and maybe it's because, I've done a lot of work in the past, but, actors are always very comfortable. I work with a girl who should have won an Emmy for The Wire. She was on the full 7 seasons, and, she works all the time. And, she's so great, at just accepting ideas. And listen, not all of them she'll use, but usually, we move in a direction that's exciting for both of us.
One thing that I like asking actors that I've spoken to and the few actor interviews that I've had, if there was any movie in history and any role that you would have just been handed, just with, no questions asked, no audition, just say, this is your role, what role would it be that you would want?
Great question. There's a movie, and I'm sure you know of it. It's written by Patty Chayefsky. It's called Marty. And Ernest Borgnine won an Academy Award for it. Lee J. Cobb, they did it as a television play before that, and Lee J. Cobb won an Emmy for it. And it's the one role that I'd love to do and ultimately might do. It's a fantastic role, and it's a wonderful play, but I'd really love to, redo the movie and bring it into, something a little bit more modern.
And are there any genres that you're very partial to, or you just basically it's a job and let's do that magic?
Yeah, I'm like a hooker. You give me money, I'll do it. And so basically, I've done comedy and I've done drama. I love doing drama because I'm dark and pained, but I think that, I can pretty much do anything. I've done commercials. I had a voiceover that ran over 9,000 times for GNC called Beat Average. So I've done that, and I've also done a ton of commercials. I went down to Australia to do a Washington Mutual commercial. So, yeah, I'm, basically I'm your middle-class actor, an actor for hire. And, and I've worked in maybe 30 films and pretty much all the episodics. So, anything they hire me for, I'll do.
It's so funny that you mentioned that Washington Mutual Bank commercial, because I know you have the clip on your website, barrypapick.com, and It is probably one of the funniest bank commercials I have ever seen.
Well, thank you. We had a lot of fun making that commercial. And the scary thing about that commercial is, at the end of the commercial, I'm up on the wrecking ball 7 stories high. And we really shot that up on a wrecking ball 7 stories high. And that was no fun, believe me. But it was fun to shoot, and it is a great commercial. And it's a shame that there is no more WAMU. I'll tell you a little story. I was walking through the subway station in Jersey City, New Jersey, with my niece. We were going to dinner. And all of a sudden, we looked up, and they had that commercial on the TVs at the train station. It was constantly running, and there I was. But they showed that commercial a lot. It was a great commercial to do, and the best part about it, of course, is that I got to shoot it in Sydney, Australia.
I speak to a lot of Australian guests on Too Many Podcasts, and The Australians are just wonderful people. I always have a lot of fun with them whenever they're on the mic.
Oh yes, Sydney is a gorgeous, gorgeous place, and shooting down there was just incredibly a lot of fun. Fortunately, I had a driver because I could not drive on the wrong side of the street like that. But it was a blast, and we shot for 10 days, and my commercial only shot for 3 days. They were shooting 3 spots. So the first 7 days I was pretty much off, just running around town and really getting to know Sydney.
Do you have a favorite place on this earth? I'm sure you've probably been to a lot of different sets all over the place.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of places that I love. I love going to Italy, to Florence. I've been really lucky that I shot there. I love going to Paris. I think Paris is an amazing place. New York City will always be my home. And, Los Angeles, I've been here now for 20 years, and, it's comfortable and easy.
You actually have some work coming up. Did you want to talk about your upcoming work, too?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to. Well, first of all, as you know, I'm doing an autograph show, which I'm really looking forward to this Saturday, February 8th, at the San Bernardino Fairgrounds in Victorville. And that's going to be a lot of fun because I always love getting out and meeting people. And, everybody can come and meet me and shake my hand and take pictures with me and talk to me about the movies that I've done, which I really enjoy. And I've been working with a director a lot, Thomas Churchill. We just did a movie called Nation's Fire, which just premiered last week, which I really love. And we also did a movie called The Big Rat, which I think is just an incredibly funny creature feature. It's one of those comedy horror genre films, and I love doing it, and I loved working with Thomas. So, everybody look out for The Big Rat. I think it's going to be one of those sneaky, funny, summer hits. These are all going to be major releases or independent releases? Yeah, all independent releases. And, Nation's Fire is out now on video on demand. You can buy it at Walmart. You can get it at iTunes. And it's a great little film. It's a biker film, sort of in the Easy Rider genre. And The Big Rat, which I just love, is coming out soon. And that'll be in theaters and also on VOD. You must be like at a funny phase in your career where, like, when you were younger, here you were working with actors that you admire, and then with all that you've put into your career, you're getting to the point where people are probably recognizing you as well, and you're almost in their position. It's a great observation, and I'll tell you a great story that really sums that up. I was doing a play years ago, Chekhov. I was doing The Seagull, and there was this great actor. His name was Frank Thompson, incredible actor. And when I met him, I just couldn't believe that he wasn't working all the time. So I introduced him to all my friends who were casting directors. I introduced him to my agents. And I said, Frank Thompson has got to work all the time because he's just a terrific actor. And then about, push ahead about 30 years, and I'm doing a short film. And it's called Queen. And it's with Adam Rose, who I love. He was in the movie with George Clooney, Up in the Clouds. And, I'm playing a stage manager. And, I'm talking to all the actors. Ryan Eggert was one of the actors, really great, talented group. And I thought to myself, oh, my God, I am Frank Thompson here. I'm the old guy. I'm the guy who has all the experience. And all of these guys, we're talking, and I realized, the hands have changed. I'm the one now who's passing along the information. The student becomes the master. Exactly. And, it was just fantastic because when I was young, I was, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and, working with these actors who I thought, oh, my God, I've got to share how wonderful these people are. And now that I'm older, I turn around and I go, oh, my God, that's me. What a great legacy to have to leave behind, too, once you're
feel that like, okay, no more of this. So at least, you have lots of things that people are going to know you by.
Yeah, and hopefully that's a long way from now. But yes, I'm pretty lucky that I have, a nice library of work that I've done and work that I'll do.
Well, you're saying library. I would encourage people to check out your website, too. There's a lot of really interesting things and great reels that they can check out to see some of your work. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to go, I know that guy.
Exactly. It's funny. I'm always that guy that, people walk up to and go, do you know my brother-in-law? Because, I'm much more of a face than a name. So usually I'll say to somebody, what was the movie that you were watching last night? Or, because I was probably in it. And, but yeah, I definitely have that library and, we're still building on it. So hopefully we're still moving in the right direction.
If there are aspiring actors that maybe want to use your services, can they contact you through their website?
Absolutely. And, it's even easier to contact me through my email address, which is bpapick, BPAPICK, @AOL.com. And, I teach in Los Angeles, and I also teach over Skype and FaceTime. So, I have students in Denmark. I have students in Baltimore and in North Carolina. So I work with people all around the world. And, so we do a lot of work on, on FaceTime. And I have some clients in Chicago and some clients in Dallas. So, it's great because, fortunately, with FaceTime and Skype, people can really connect with me all over. Before we go, is there anything else that you would like to plug? No, just I hope everybody comes out to the autograph show because I love meeting people. The autograph show, like I said, is at the San Bernardino Fairgrounds in Victorville this Saturday, February 8th. And, go see my movies. Go to my website, barrypapick.com. Take a look. You'll see, I've been in a bunch of things. I've also coached, an enormous amount of people. I've been really blessed. And, drop a line on the website and say hello. And, I always love meeting people.
Hey, so Barry, if you're hanging out later on at the Sherpa Screening Room, what movie is it that you'd like to sit back and see?
That's a great question. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Verdict. And, I recently taught out in Hawaii. And they asked me, they said, we want to show one movie and have you talk about the movie afterwards. And I said, that's easy. Let's screen The Verdict and we'll sit and talk about it after, with Paul Newman. And, to me, the greatest movies ever made were, The Godfather, Schindler's List. Pulp Fiction, all fantastic movies. But there's so much that an actor can learn from watching The Verdict.
Barry Papick is his name, and you know the face, and you probably know a lot of the roles that he's played. We'd like to say thank you so much for coming down to the Sherpa Screening Room.
Can I tell you something? This was so much fun. And really, Jim, thanks for having me. And anytime, I love talking acting, and it was just a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks to tuning in to the Sherpa Screening Room, and an extra special thanks to my first guest, Mr. Barry Papick. Make sure you check him out at barrypapick.com, and don't forget to also listen to his podcast, The Inside Noise. You can follow this show on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Sherpalution, Sherpalution, or check out our website, Sherpalution.com. Next week, we'll be talking to YouTuber and author Heather Lehrman, right here on Too Many Podcasts. Now it's time for my favorite actor, Mr. Bruce.
Thanks for listening to Too Many Podcasts. Please disperse. You can go home now. I said you can go home now. Viva la Sherpalution. Viva la Sherpalution. Oh. Yo, come back now, you hear?